Hello, and welcome to reviewing a farmer's value-added producers grant applications. I'm Anita Roberson, and I am so happy that you joined the webinar. And I'll be your presenter today. I'm a farmer and also a grant writer and a grant recipient of the value-added producers grant. So I understand the process from both perspectives. I have quite a bit of information to share with you, so we'll jump right into today's presentation. A little about myself. My husband and I have a 10-acre farm called Botanical Bites and Provisions, located just outside of Fredericksburg, Virginia. Here we grow vegetables, a diverse assortment, cut flowers, and we also raise honeybees. I stay quite busy, just got back from the Virginia Biological Farming Conference late yesterday. I serve on a couple boards, one with Raffi, the Virginia Fairs. I'm a member of Virginia Tech's New and Beginning Farmers and Ranchers Coalition. I'm on the advisory panel for Virginia State's Small Farm Outreach Program, member of the Virginia Biological Farming Association, and a couple other organizations. But let's get to what we came here for. Our objectives today, I want to encourage you as reviewers to share information and encourage your farmers. I am very concerned because the clock is ticking and, they announced the grant on January 17th, and I know everyone is busy, but you signed on to give farmers a big hand. So we need to start developing a plan if you haven't already done so, and get the assistance to the farmers who need it. I'd also encourage you to connect with your farmers as soon as possible to know that you're available and you're willing to help them as best as you can. On the other hand, you also need to let the farmers know that you're not there to write the grant for them. It's their farm, and they know the farming business better than you do. They know their resources, they know what they need to get their proposal together and to make things happen and make all the connections they need as far as getting partners, collaborators, and everything in between. I plan to share some tips on reviewing the grant proposal, and I'd like for you to make sure that you educate your farmers and show them where the evaluation points are, so where they're located. And we're going to talk about that because they're in the toolkits and also in the Code of Federal Regulations, as well as kind of the narrative. So we're going to work hard to cover all the requirements so that they can hopefully gain as many points and to be contenders, because it's a very competitive process. They're going to be competing not only on the state level, but the national level for this money. Lastly, we need to do a little bit of housekeeping to make sure that everybody understands the Chesapeake Agriculture Innovation Center's administrative requirements, because we want to make sure that you're happy and that you get paid. So let's move this along. Okay, everyone as a reviewer has signed up to provide at least 25 flexible hours of consulting work, meaning that you're flexible to work on whatever days work best for you and the farmer. It doesn't have to be the same day every day of the week or every other week. Let your farmer know now that their $200 only covers the 25 hours. If they wish to work beyond that, let them know what your rate is. and perhaps you may need to sign a contract, but that's between you and that farmer. We also recommend that you use Google Docs for sharing and saving files. This makes it a lot more efficient, and people don't have to worry about storing so much information on their computers. Also, the staff here, Lydia and I, are available to assist and reach out. So, if you need help, we won't know it unless you contact us. So please avail yourself to our availability. When your farmer is ready to discuss his or her proposed budget, Mr. Brian Brown, the budget professional here, is available to assist, and it won't count against the farmer's 25 hours. However, the farmer needs to contact Mr. Brown to work out an appointment so that he can work with him. Again, please don't write the grant for the farmers. They need to know what's going on. They need to know how their operation will be working, all the resources and how the money ties in and all the pieces and the collaborators. So we're here to assist, we're here to encourage, and we're here to teach. Also, please send your work hours to Lydia biweekly. And lastly, by the regulations for the value-added producer grant, the applicant is responsible for grant completion. So the farmers are big people. If you explain all that, I think everybody will work well together. And if you have any questions, please contact Lydia or contact myself. Thank you. The next thing that we need to discuss is time management. We really need to start mapping things out. As you look at this slide, April 16th will be here before we know it. We got taxes on the 15th. The next day, the grant is due. This chart shows how critical it is to be organized for this grant program because there's so many moving pieces. We have a little over 2.5 months before the grant deadline. And if you look at the chart, even if everything, the grant proposal is written out but not reviewed, this chart identifies under, already about 2 months worth of task. Getting your tax EIN, it can take up to 2 weeks for that information. Establishing a SAMS account, if you don't already have one, it's a week or more. Creating your grants.gov account and registering whoever's going to be that authorized representative for that farming business, that can take another 2 weeks. So, you have a little bit more time. When I say the 16th of April, that is the deadline if people are going to walk it to the state USDA Rural Development Office, or either mail it or ship it or postmark it. However, if you're doing it on grants.gov, the deadline is April the 11th at midnight. Anything late, there are no excuses. They're not going to accept the application. The goal of the program is to take a well thought out idea and transform it into a well-written proposal for your grant. That idea has to be very realistic. It has to be fundable, meaning all the costs are allowed, and the budget has to work. These are some of the questions that I would advise you to have your farmer answer. Why is it that you need this value added grant? How is it going to transform your farm? What kind of resources do you already have in place? Because you know this is a matching one-to-one grant program. If the farmer is asking for $100,000, they've got to have $50,000 upfront to make this grant program work. And that money has to be able to be liquid um, at the time of application, because that farmer is going to have proof that they actually have those funds available right then at the time of application. How do you see this grant in the long term? How do you see it in another 2 years? What's your budget going to be? And how is that budget going to operate if you're looking for a 2-year grant? How much income do you hope will result from your proposal? And how are you going to map that out over the duration of the grant? And lastly, what are the things that have been holding your farm or your business operation from being successful? And how do you propose through this grant that you're going to overcome these challenges? As I mentioned earlier, these grants are very competitive. The farmer is going to compete not only at the state level, but at the national level. Also, because of the amount of work that's involved, there's some serious time considerations and research commitments that come into play. A lot of times, if I have questions that can't be readily answered, I'll research um, that information through the Code of Federal Regulations. And here's a link at the bottom to that portion of the Code of Federal Regulation that covers the Value Added Producers Grant. The main thing that you want to make sure is your applicant farmer meets all of the Value Added Producer Grant qualifications to be eligible to participate, because it would be such a shame to invest so much time and work into the product only to find out the farmer is ineligible. The other thing is the farmer needs to develop a working budget and a plan on how that money is spent, both on resources and manpower. The grant also has a minimum and maximum threshold for the budgetary request. For planning grants, it's you can ask for up to 75,000. And for the planning grant, you would do things like website design or redesign, develop a business plan, a marketing plan, those kinds of things. Working capital grant, that's the actual work of coming up with a value-added product that would take into account salaries, working to redesign your website, purchase packing materials, and other inputs. However, there's a simplified grant if the farmer is asking for under $50,000. They don't have to go through a planning grant. Matching fund requirement, as I mentioned earlier, the grant requirement is 1-to-1. So there is something called an in-kind funding that's permitted, and it can't exceed 25%. And what that would be if somebody's donating supplies or services and no money transfers in the process. It's sort of a donation that could count towards your matching portion of the grant. However, funding you get for matching, those funds also have to be verified at the time and verified at the time of application. I mentioned earlier the work plan and budget. Uh, it has to show whatever funds are being requested are allowable. They have to be detailed. They have to identify all the staff that would be involved in all the tasks that would be performed and identify all those matching grant funds along with the activities that would be involved in that process. Whatever form the proposal takes, the value added producer's grant cannot endure for more than 36 months, and it has to be appropriately scaled. The next thing that we want to talk about is talking with your financial bookkeeper or your accountant to obtain some of the documents that will help you create your budget and your work plan, such as cash flow statements, balance sheets, income statements. The other thing you need to look at is your business's capacity. I'm a very small farm, or I have a very small farm. So it makes no sense for me to develop a proposal of the size of Purdue when, I don't even have chickens. So that would just be a total waste of time. Again, it's important to make sure that the farmer starts asking now for whatever letters of commitment, letters of verification that they need to make their budget and work plan successful. Next, we want to make sure that everybody understands the definition of a value-added product. I know a lot of the grant writers have worked on other forms of grants, but have not done any agricultural grants. The term value added refers to a product that has its value has been increased through a change of state, such as turning your dairy products into butter or ice cream or pudding, taking a product and advertising or marketing it for its special character, such as being organic or being GMO free, taking a natural resource and turning it into fuel, such as corn going into biodiesel. Marketing products. In Virginia, where I'm located, we have something called Virginia Grown or Virginia Finest, a certification that you can get through the state of Virginia, our Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services. The other thing that can be done as a value-added process is having farm products enter into the local food chain through an institution like a school. And there's an organization that promotes this called the National Farm to School Network. As we found out last week, the value grant opened up, and I received an announcement through USDA's rule development that looks similar to this. This is a copy of one of their announcements. And if you go to this website, you need to take note, and this is the way an announcement comes out every year, that it will alert you to the two application deadlines, one for the electronic application, and then the hard copy, if that's going to be delivered by post, by car to the state office. There are always two deadlines noted. Also, during the application process, it's important to select and look at your state's specific information. Each state has critical priority issues that they may address. So it's important to go here and make sure your farmer goes there to find out if there are any special state considerations that come into play when applying for the Value Added Producers Grant. There's also a fact sheet that farmers can get a general overview of the program, what goes into the planning and the working capital, value added applications. And here is the Federal Register where farmers can go to find all the laws and anything that's related to the Value Added Producers Grant, from the evaluation process to what forms farmers are required to fill out in the application process. There's a link here that shows you how to apply and any other special requirements. If there's any, if you have any questions that you can't find information through the paper documents, there's usually contact information that you can call or write or contact somebody in your rural development state office. Also, if there are any webinars that the rural development will host concerning the Value Added Producers Grant, oftentimes the event information will be listed under this link or that tab. Again, as I had mentioned earlier, for the Value Added Producers Grant, this is a copy of the special consideration notices for the states of Delaware and Maryland. And on the next slide, I'll show the link for special considerations for farmers located in Virginia. Okay, how to apply. There is also going to be a video, and if you go to your application toolkit information or the link below, you can obtain the link to the video. And I think if I hold my mouse over, it shows the link. It's actually a YouTube video on how to apply for the Value Added Producers Grant. As I mentioned earlier, there are two application toolkits, one for the planning grant and one for the working capital grant. The toolkits are there to help the farmers with the program requirements and help them complete the application. There are also required forms, they're listed here, that have to be submitted at the time of application. And also there's special information depending on the farmer's specialty. If they're harvesters like grain farmers, if they produce locally sourced food, if they're in the mid-tier value chain, there's information here. If they're doing special energy sources, anaerobic digesters, they can click this link and get a PDF that will explain special considerations that they need to be aware of. And here's information on awards that have been previously made um, from the state office. That first link that I showed you a couple slides earlier, this is what the fact sheet looks like. It basically answers the questions about what is the purpose of the Value-Added Producers Grant Program. The eligibility requirements are explained. How funds can be used if you are awarded one of these grants. How does one get started applying? Who are the contacts that can link me to answers should I have questions? If I am awarded a value-added producer's grant, are there reports that I'm required to complete? And I can tell you firsthand, there are semi-annual reports that you will need to complete. And if you want to receive the money that is due to you under the grant, that's the only way you're going to get it, by doing the report and requesting the funds. You're going to have to provide copies of your invoices for expenses as you had stated in your work plan and your budget that you submitted. So all that has to be submitted every 6 months. Also, there's a link that will show you all the laws and regulations governing this program. Here is another a copy of the Federal Register for the Value-Added Producers Grant Program. It is put out annually by the Rural Business Cooperative Service Branch, part of the Rural Development Agency. And it has all the information on the application for the Value-Added Producers Grant. I've got a lot of snow that's falling off of my rooftop. So if you hear anything, that's what that is. Also, as I mentioned earlier, your value-added toolkit also contains evaluation criteria in Section 6. This toolkit that's shown here is for the planning grant, but also note that there is a separate planning, a toolkit for the working capital grant as well. Again, there is a simplified application that's available for farmers that are requesting working capital submissions of less than $50,000, and they have to validate that they're going to, do exactly what the statement says that they will do. Again, here's some more information about the Federal Register. It goes through great detail about the program itself, the regulations that govern the program, again, eligibility requirements. The funding guidance is also put here, and priorities. It's important that you note the priorities by rural development. As I noted earlier, the states have priorities. There are also national priorities. So these will help gain points for your farmers by taking advantage and having a proposal that may incorporate some of these things and highlighting those things. Again, information on cost sharing is here, and the requirements for the in-kind contributions and the matching. Project eligibility continues here for both your planning and your working capital grants. There's also funds that are reserved and priority points that are given for farmers that are beginning farmers, veteran farmers, socially disadvantaged farmers and ranchers, mid-tier farmers, value chain farmers. And I think the value chain farmers also refer to the farmers that are growing hemp and farmers that are growing products that are transformed into alcoholic beverages. There are special additional requirements that they have to meet in order to participate in this program. Again, here's some of the information on the alcohol in hemp. Application submission information is located in this section of the Federal Register. And here comes the section that, I'm sorry, farmers need to know, the reviewers need to know a lot about, and that's the application review section, which is section E. It's important that farmers show how this project is going to have merit above other farmers' projects and how it's going to be successful. The application toolkit, as I mentioned also, has a wealth of evaluation information. And I'm going to kind of skip forward because I'm not going to read all this stuff to you, but this is the application review section. And this is the section that starts with the points, section E. And it tells in detail how points are awarded and how many points are given for various technicalities if the application addresses the various criteria. This is information on how the application is going to be reviewed. And as far as the personnel that are requested to work as staff on the farm, are these staff qualified? You know, did you provide resumes to show that this farmer has a wealth of experience in aquaponics? If your grant centers around doing a hatchery or a fishery. Here's information on priority points. If the application, for socially disadvantaged farmers, ranchers, beginning farmers, they get 5 priority points. And all of that is going to be in your narrative, justifying these things. And that, I believe, pretty much sums it up. If you have any questions that I didn't cover, please feel free to reach out to me through Lydia, and I will be happy to get back with you. And Lydia, was there anything else that you wanted to cover?
Not as of now. That was a really, really great training, really comprehensive, covered everything. Yeah, just obviously feel free to reach out if you have any questions, concerns, and yeah, that was great.
Thank you. Thank you.